Alright, welcome back to another video, guys. Today we are going to be talking about the Teletype and Disting EX ecosystem over I2C and how I use it. So it's a really powerful system for me. If you have both of these modules, it'll be a very powerful system for you as well. Yeah, I'll be using the Disting EX in Poly Wavetable mode. You can reset this preset so it's just what it is like when it loads. And yeah, so we'll be getting really into Teletype here. Sort of showing you how I code and trying to explain the code as I go. I might split this up into multiple series because Teletype gets really deep. I'll be using some binary operators for some drums later on, so that might be a separate video. But let's get into it. So if you don't know what Teletype is a module that it's like a live coding module basically that lets you control voltage and trigger information, and there are 8 scripts, a metronome script and an initial script. I'm going to start on script 1, and I don't like to use the metro script actually. I like to just call the script again over and over to sort of loop the script and make triggers that way. There are inputs for every script, so you can trigger each script. There's one input that you can sample voltage or use that information, and then there are 4 trigger outputs and 4 CV outputs. And then I also have Crow over here that I'm using as an expander to send more CV out and triggers, etc. But we won't be using that in this video. We're using actually none of the ins or outs in this video on Teletype. We're only going to be sending I2C. Oh, well, we might use some CV in a second here. But yeah, let's get started with script 1. Also, this is just something that I like to, this is like how I make scripts for my performances and for my music. So this line of code is saying delay between a random number between 200 and 200 and 2000. These numbers are in milliseconds, so basically make the delay a random number between 200 and 2000 in 2 seconds, basically. So 200 milliseconds and 2 seconds, and then call the script itself. So now, also note, this top line on Teletype is just broken. My screen is fucked up. So if I'm on this top line, you'll see the line down here, but that should be displayed up there. So just take note of that that top line being gone for the sake of this video. But yeah, so this is just saying every time the script is called, choose a random number between 200 milliseconds and 2 seconds to fire the script again. So on my second line here, if I do tr.p1, trigger pulse 1, and I might need to change the timing of that. Oh, well, I need to call the script first. So there's a keyboard shortcut for this, but it's just F1 calls the first script. So now you can see that this pulse is triggering with a random duration between 200 and 2000 milliseconds. And this can be anywhere between 200 and 4000. You can make this sort of like, this can be any number. This can be like 432 if you want it to be in some random number. I use a lot of random in my scripts. And then I can do, but we're going to make this shorter for the sake of this video. You can also, that fits in the same line. Yeah, so there's a 1 off to the side here. But yeah, you can do things in the same line by using a semicolon, but I'm just going to do it on another line for the sake of this video. And I'll just keep tr.p1 on so you can see what's happening. But the operator for the EX, the disting EX, is ex.note. And then n is the note number, so for CV, but if you put like a number here, like 63, it would be in voltage, which you don't want. You want like the note. So I can do note 12 would be an octave. Note 0 would be, I think, middle C. And then what I like to do, so I don't really know much music theory, is I like to do sort of conditional statements, so, or ways of like using math, like multiplication, division, and randomness. So I do multiply, and then you sort of get used to the syntax, but it's sort of just like things, it's like parentheses, but without parentheses. So multiply 7, this will multiply the number 7. This is basically ex.note, send the note, multiply 7 by random 3. So 7, 14, etc. And then I like to do if toss, which means that if toss basically just puts either a 1 or a 0, and I say if it's a 1, multiply the 7, and if it's 0, multiply the 4. So this is saying ex.note, multiply either 7 or 4, let's make this 5, by a random number between 0 and 3. And then the last inlet for EX is the velocity. And this is in voltage, so I'm going to do V10. And now it's sending notes here. Before we hear it, I'm going to change my sustain level to 0, and then also shorten this timing so we can hear it faster. And I might just make this actually something steady by just doing delay like 500. Or 400 milliseconds. And you can complexify this by you can make this more complex by using variables. So like if I wanted 5 to be either 5 or 9, I could just do j, which is a local variable, and then I can say j is equal to yeah. And then yeah, so next what I like to do is add more notes. I could do like chords this way sometimes. I'm not gonna do this, I'm just gonna do 5 for now and then delete this line, but that's something you can do. Just add more lines like that. What do I do next? Oh, wavetable. So I rarely ever use the first wavetable. I like saws a lot, so if we go to my favorite wavetable on here, and you can upload your own wavetables. I've made a video on making wavetables before on this channel that I'll link in the description, but self FM saw waves. And then to change the wavetable, I do use CV because CV has interpolation and I2C does not. So I can do set CV1 to a random voltage between 0 and 10 volts every time that it's triggered. So now we're getting random voltage out of there. And then I can do CV on the same line, but it doesn't have to be. I'm just using a semicolon to save space. Sleevy.slew1, 900 milliseconds. So now it'll interpolate between the last random value and the new random value over the course of 900 milliseconds. Put a jack in there. Control the CV there. Another thing I like to do on here is the panning, which is just output spread. So each note gets a different spread in the stereo field. And I can change the decay, so I can do ratcheting notes, so I can do delay.ratchet. Sorry. What this line is doing is saying, oop. It's saying fire script 2 at j times at an interval of the last time that this script was fired divided by j. So if this script was fired 200 milliseconds ago, it'll divide that by the variable j, or we want to make this a different variable because we're already using j. K is the other local variable. It'll divide it by that number and it will trigger the second track. So if I also make it trigger pulse 2, oh, I'm gonna have to do that on, yeah, there's not enough space on that line, so I'll do it on the second script. Oh, yeah, we need to set K. So space up here, so K, I want to be random 8, so now this is being triggered at a random division of 8 of the first script. So the second script will either trigger 4 times as fast, or 5 times as fast, or 6, or 7, or 8, or 1 to 8. Basically, it's going to choose a random number every time that the first script is fired. You can also do, on the main page, loop 1 for tier time. This sets the pulse time, like the pulse, the length of the pulse to 20 milliseconds. So if you want really short pulses, also good for visualization, just seeing things. I can make this random like 11 even if I want to. And then I can put more notes here. So ex.note. If toss 7, or I could do quantized to random. So this is set the note to quantized random, which means you can quantize the number that you want to get out of that random. So I want the rand means a range of random. So instead of just being random between 0 and a number, you can set a range between, in this case, -24 and 0. And then I'm quantizing that by 7, so it's only going to be by intervals of 7 between 0 and 24. And then my voltage, I can be J and then set J to random 10. So it's a random voltage between 0 and 10 volts. So now we're getting more notes at divisions. On the second script, I can also start to change parameters. So parameter 13 is the decay time. So we can say ex.p 13 random range between 20, which is, it shows you also over here what the milliseconds is. So 60 is 400 milliseconds. 20 would be 56 milliseconds, so random range between 20 and like 80. So now we're starting to get something a little more dynamic here. Things always sound stupid at the start of coding all of these because it's just like sporadic. Well, it's all sporadic, but get more dynamics and variation here. And that's when I start to change this up to like a higher number. Yeah. Next, I like to control the filter also. So over here when we said CV1 random voltage between 0 and 10 volts, and then CV slew 900, that's only for the first CV. So we can actually do all of those by deleting that line, do loop 1 through 4 CVI, which is the lookup number for the loop. So 1 to 4 would be CV 1 through 4. And then CVI V random 10. Now it'll make all the CVs a random voltage between 0 and 10. They all have their each individual random voltages. And then I can do CV dot slew I 900 milliseconds. You can change the slew dynamically too. Like I can do like random 200 and 1000. And then the inlet for the filter is Z over here. But we have to go over to our filter page first and make sure that it's on. Low pass. And then change it to down. Actually, I'm going to make this 1 to 3 and then not slew our last voltage and change our last voltage on the page that's moving faster too. So CV4 VV random 1000. So volt 1 through 10 is fine. It'll choose a random voltage between 1 and 10, or it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. VV, putting 2 V's sort of lets you be more precise with the voltages that you're choosing. So this will be a random voltage sort of in more of a range. Like it won't be 1 to 10, but it'll be like 1.1, 1.2, or 5.6, etc. So I like to use that when I want more random between, that's not just 1 to 10. So I'm doing VV random 1000, and 1000 in this case would be 10 volts. So now CV4 is doing that, and we want to make the slew for that 0. So CV4 to slew for 0. And then I'm going to have that last one control the filter. And we can turn on some chorus maybe. And the last thing I like to do is delay. So it's the funnest part in my opinion. And you see that we've taken up all the scripts on this page now, but we want to fire stuff at the same rate. So we can just call another script with a semicolon. So script 3 is not in use yet, so we'll call script 3 and then continue editing parameters on the Disting. So ex.p 58, which is either on or off for the delay, and I can just do toss, so it'd be like either 1 or 0. So some random chance it'll be on or off. Delay level, delay time. So ex.p, and I like to do something here. I'm kind of running out of time on our camera, but I might record another video. Yeah, so what I like to do with the delay time is do ex.p and then set a variable, like a global variable like a, or first, yeah, set that variable, so random 800 milliseconds for the delay time. And then do ex.p 60a, and you'll see why I'm doing it this way in a sec. If you don't want this to trigger every single time the script is fired, you can do probability 20 break BRK. So what that means is that 20% of the time it just won't fire the lines that are underneath this line. So 20% of the time this is not going to change the delay time because it just breaks the script right there. Then on the same script we're going to do before the break, we're going to do the feedback. So ex.p 61. And why I like to use the variable is I can do if less than a 120 milliseconds. So if the random delay time is less than 120 milliseconds, I can make the feedback really high, like 92 or 96 even. Otherwise, just make it something like 60 or 64. So now we can change that feedback dynamically. So we have shorter delay times like that. It'll raise the feedback high. And if not, then it won't. Gonna go here and add a reverb. We can save this patch. I just put things twice because when I save it, my top screen is broken, so it won't show that top line unless I put it again underneath. Yeah. So what you're seeing down here is this top line that's blank. Yeah, that's basically what I do with the Poly Wavetable. And we can try this with different wavetables here. One last thing you can do is set your parameter knob, so I can do and what that means is setting this range between 400 and 4000, so I can use this dynamically in patches, and then we can set our range for our random to just parameter. So now it's between 120 and 400, and then I can make it between 120 and 4000. So can choose how sporadic I want the patch to be. That's something I also like to do live. Yeah. But thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Time to plan dinner.